describe an instance where you've experienced bias with your age? If you've had any comedic experience.
When they start introducing you as a legend, they're telling you that your career is almost up.
Da 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 da, the room of inspiration. You see this? Most people, when they see this room and you come in, you know, you might think, oh man, he's got a little sanctuary to himself. Oh, he must be in love with himself. This is definitely not what that purpose of this is. This room gives me inspiration of how far I came when I started. Growing up as kids, my mother would send us to these after-school programs at the Chicago Park District. They call them field houses. And my older sister and them were taking tap dancing. My sister and them were performing, and oh man, it was tap the rhythm, and spins and turns. You know, they did have a guy in there dancing, and it was love at first sight. At 15 years old, I started performing for Brunswick Records. My brother was them, they were supposed to go out of town. So he said, I got a little brother, he know how to play, I could teach him everything. And they said, well, get him. We toured about a year as an opening act with James Brown. And then when all of that died out, that gave me the money to pay for my tap training. There was a very elite tap company that started in 1949 called the Copaesthetics. Brownie, my mentor, was a co-founding member. We did one project together and just kind of snowballed and went into a 17-year partnership of performing on stage.
Cause you know, grandmama gonna tell you the truth. Nobody else gonna tell you, but I'm gonna tell you. When you get married, you're gonna be happy for a little while.
It's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a performer and an actor. And I remember the moment it clicked for me. I was 5. I had watched Gypsy Rose Lee with my aunt and uncle, and they said I did a striptease dance and I used their big plants as a cover. So that was my first taste of getting applause. I went to Columbia College in Chicago. I'm from Chicago, born and raised. My 3rd year, I had signed up, and that was the year that cut all of the grants. So I didn't finish. I got off into life, I got into relationships, I got married, I had kids, I had other jobs. I was a retail makeup artist, and then they phased that program out. And so I was like, I'm gonna use this unemployment money and see if I can get back into acting. I auditioned for the League of Chicago Theaters. And someone from Second City saw me there. And they said, you're funny and you should come take classes. We're gonna scholarship people through. And so that's how I came to Second City.
I started dancing when I was 4 years old. I only ever wanted to be a dancer. I got my first professional job when I was 16. I was a senior in high school, and the dance teacher, I was at Whitney Young High School, and the dance teacher there said, well, if y'all seniors want to get an A in my class, you have to go to this audition. and sent us to audition for Joseph Holmes' Chicago Dance Theater. And I got a job. Cut to 1994 when I was off contract for the summer and got a job doing musical theater, you know, and then I just went ahead and did that and didn't really look back.
I have good ideas. First thing I would do if I became president of our country, I would set up idiot zones in it. Because there are way too many people in this nation who think a thesaurus is the thing they saw in Jurassic Park. My father, he'd come home from the factories in the afternoon and he'd be all tired, and I would do everything I could to cheer him up, and I'd tell him jokes, and so from a very young age, it was taking shape. And then when I got into high school, I would sit in the bleachers before class and I'd make all these kids laugh. And my future partner was one of the audience members, and he looked at me and he goes, wow, this guy's getting all this attention. He came over to my house at 10 o'clock at night, knocked on my door. He said, you know, we've been doing this in school and it's just been really successful. I know a professional comedian named Tom Dreesen who might want to help us. In 1976, Dreesen said, we're never going to make it in Chicago. You have to go where the TV and the industry is. So we packed our stuff, moved to California. I spent 8 years working in Los Angeles. We performed with the best names in comedy, everybody from Seinfeld to Jay Leno. We made the Comedy Store Wall of Fame. For two kids from the south side of Chicago, that was unbelievable, you know. So it has been a phenomenal career.
Well, I mean, I started noticing that I was working less in places where I had worked a lot. Suddenly, there was not a job for me. And this is gonna sound so chorus liney, right? But like, have eyes, I went to auditions, I was still dancing rings around girls half my age and not getting a job. From people who knew me, who knew how old I was, who knew how long I had been around, you know, and I started thinking, all right, there's something going on here, okay.
The older you get, they do slow down. If you look at commercially, and you know, if you look at the ad agencies and the commercials that you see out there, it's usually they're the grandmother in the background, or it's a specific age appropriate, you know, product.
I'm dropping 6 beats. They call me DJ Nana.
I think there is an age bias in this. In stand-up, if you're in the clubs, like I was saying, maybe around the age of 45, if you haven't hit it big, like really big, they're going to replace you with guys who work for less, maybe aren't as funny, but they're younger. And so you always have to be cognizant of the fact that you're easily replaceable.
Dance is hard because there are physical limits to what your body can do. As humans push the limits of what our bodies are being asked to do, that actually makes our ability to do it shorter.
It shifts, you know what I mean? It shifts from where, you know, at first you out there, you're doing splits, you flipping and everything, until now people accept your maturity and they more or less start want to pick your brain for your knowledge.
I find that a more mature artist is more interesting to watch. Even if they can't do 8 pirouettes and get their leg up to here anymore, the things that you build in your spirit from being on the stage make you really interesting, more interesting to watch. Claire Bataille, who, God rest her, is gone from us now, but like I would watch her sit on the stage and 16 counts to turn her head would be the most interesting thing on the stage.
It's almost like we want to make them feel comfortable, even at the expense of our own self-respect. Right. We even do it at work. I'm so excited about the presentation tomorrow.
I think we're missing some of the paperwork from the Solins account.
You're gonna nail it.
I'll go check with Barb. Hey!
when you get this age, I feel like women, and I've heard other women say this, sometimes you feel invisible. Sometimes you feel like people don't see you.
Women are judged by their physical beauty in a way that men are not. Men are considered attractive much longer. And that's changing a little bit, at least for famous people. Those women pushing the needle will make room for other women not so famous to have more opportunities.
I was older when I got an opportunity to do this, but because I look so young, I don't think anybody knew how old I was until I got here and it was like, she's married with 2 kids, but she's funny. I was able to do this job, married with 2 kids, and I'm like, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I don't sit around waiting on somebody to call me. I don't sit around waiting, for them to respect who I am. I also create my opportunities, like I don't have to wait on this person. I can create a show myself, and that's what I do.
Oh, I mean, it feels like it always has. I never got tired of it. A lot of guys become road weary. They're out there, you're knocking yourself out every day. I always loved it. I just love it. I mean, what better feeling is there than to make people laugh? And I always got that feeling around my friends. But when you can make 300 strangers laugh, it's a real sense of accomplishment. And I think that's why comics keep doing it. George Burns was 100 years old and he was still performing. And I think that's why they do it, because it's still fun.
I think what stayed the same is the passion for it. The passion for it has stayed the same. The work ethic I continue to try to work at. And as the older I get, I'm always gonna see myself as a diva, as an ingenue, but that's not how people outside world sees me or sees people of my age range. So getting comfortable with the newer roles. Like, I think I started out like, oh, young mom. And now mother, but to adult kids, or grandmother, or teacher, or church lady, or something like that. And it's like, that's fine, because that's true.
So, I mean, there's a reason that chorus line is so near and dear to the hearts of dancers everywhere. The idea that you do it because you love it and you have to, and it doesn't matter that it's not gonna last forever. That's why we do it. Because you have to. People say, why do you dance? And I say, well, why do you breathe? So that's why.
Sometimes you think it's something that you chose to do, but then when you realize, one day you look up and you realize it chose you, because some of the obstacles that get in the way as you coming up, and you never would get through that unless you had something in you stronger, like keeping you up like a puppet on the string. Because most artists that a lot that I've been around always say they wish they had stuck with it instead of, giving up.